rate. Now, you're so great. I can say all of that, but what is Family Promise? They help homeless children and their families. And the way they do that is we partner with local congregations within the county. And those congregations provide support and they provide volunteers. Trying to think of where to start here, but anyway, why does Hamilton County want or need this kind of support? Did you know that every month as many as 200 families in Hamilton County alone receive eviction or foreclosure notices every month in Hamilton County, our rich county? Now, not all of them actually are foreclosed on or evicted, but they do receive those notices, and they are, they're worried. I mean, they don't know where they're going to go next or what's going to happen. And on any given day in Noblesville alone, 70 children, school-aged children, are homeless. That blew me away. I couldn't believe that in Noblesville. And there are no family shelters in Hamilton County. There's no place for these people to go where they can stay together. When you hear of the shelters in Indianapolis, you hear of the men's shelters, the women's shelters. Well, what if you were a family of 4, husband, wife, and you had, say, a daughter and a son? Well, you're all going to be split up. You're not going to be together. That makes it even more difficult. So what this program also does is it tries to keep, it's the families together. They do have a pretty sturdy screening process. Because this is run by volunteers and, so people like us, like any of us, we do screen out for substance abuse, alcohol abuse, mental illness, and criminal background checks are run. They do about a 2 or 3 hour intake process to just screen, because they don't want it to be anything that would be dangerous for the volunteers. They want it to be something that, we don't have to be trained for, because there are facilities out there for these type of situations. But just for your average, everyday, hey, dad lost his job and now we're homeless kind of thing, that's more what this supports. The program itself never has more than 14 individuals in the program at one time, which that could be 3 to 4 families. The reason for that, I'll get to that later, but it's partly due to transportation. But I can get to that here in a minute. But anyway, there are 6 program components. First of it would be the host congregations and the support congregations. That would be someone like possibly us, makes the program run, and let me tell you, back to you. So it's completely run by volunteers, and there have been a lot of stories I've heard shared about things that have happened. One of the stories that I've heard that just really always touched me is about how a family participated in this out of one of the congregations, and while they were there, their daughter says, okay, let's all the kids get on our pajamas. She found out that these homeless children, they didn't have pajamas. And she was only about 7 or 8 at the time, and she was just so devastated that her new friends didn't have pajamas that she started this thing to start collecting pajamas for the program. So now every time anyone comes in through the Indianapolis program, they get a new set of pajamas, all because of this little girl, Another component would be a day center. So the day center would be the hub of the program. The day center would provide shower facilities, washer and dryer. There would be an office for a social worker, because we would hire a part-time social worker who would help with life skills, credit counseling, nutrition counseling, budgeting, getting jobs, just about anything you can imagine. There'd be room for the families to go to that would have a phone and a computer so that they could work on those things as well. So this isn't something where we would just be providing somebody a place to stay here and there. We're also providing a lot of social services to help them get back up on their feet so that they can be independently in their own homes again. There'd be an office for the director, I said that. There would be a network 15-passenger van. Now this gets back to why we only have 14 people in the program at a time. In order to transport more than 15 people in a vehicle, you have to have a CDL license. Well, then that kind of limits how many people can volunteer to drive this van. So that makes a huge difference in the program too, because again, we're trying to keep it easier also for the volunteers, because we realize this runs strongly on what the volunteers can provide. Another component is, of course, funds. This is a nonprofit program, so we will be responsible for gaining our own funds. I mentioned the social services, but the social services person will also work in collaboration with area agencies. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Good Samaritan Network, but they work with, I don't know, like 40 or 50 other agencies within Hamilton County to provide assistance toward people who are having difficulties. So I've mentioned all the different components, but let me explain what the host congregation and the support congregations would be doing. Your host congregation would supply the physical space for up to 14 individuals, or as I said, 3 to 4 families for 7 consecutive nights. The way that would work is on the first day of of your week. So say we decided we're going to do this. We are going to be a host congregation. The rotation runs from Sunday to Sunday. So on the first day that you're going to be at, tag you're at, a driver will bring all the cots and all of the belongings of the guests to that host congregation's facilities. The cots will be set up. That takes about an hour and a half, and everything will be ready. And then another driver will bring the guests, actually, around 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening. And then the host congregation would support by providing a hot meal, playing games, reading, just fellowship with these families. If you think about some of the other places that they stay, if they go to a shelter or if they are given money to be put in a hotel, they're missing out on some of that fellowship and some of that community that says, you know what, you do still have a place in the community. You're just going through a rough time right now. So that's what the host congregation would do for that night. Then we would need 2 people that would spend the night at the church with the guests. And we prefer it to be 1 man and 1 female, but if it can't be that, that's fine. They spend the night from 9 until 7 in the morning. So at 6 in the morning, they get everybody up. Everybody has a cold breakfast. The families have the option of packing lunches for that day with either leftovers or if there's food provided by the host congregation, for like lunch meat and that kind of thing. So they will pack that up, and then they'll be out of here by 7. There's a possibility it could be a little bit earlier. What they do is depends on who has to be gone the earliest. So if somebody has to be at work at 6:30, we might get them out of here by 6. So at 7 o'clock, the van driver will come back. They'll pick everybody up, and they'll take them to the day center. So then the host congregation's building, there's nobody there for the day. They're actually back at the day center. So basically what the host congregation's providing is as a nighttime place to sleep, and then food and comfort and fellowship. So it's really, so you can see where it's all based on volunteers, and it's really not that difficult. And with a church our size, if we were to do something like this, we wouldn't be asking more than 2 or 3 hours of your time a couple times a year or 4 times a year. The reason I say 4 times a year is because what our goal is to have 13 congregations that are willing to be a part of the Hamilton County rotation. And the reason for 13 is if each of the congregations took 4 weeks, that's 52 weeks, you've got your year covered. And we don't want to overburden any particular congregation by asking them to give any more than that. St. Michael's Episcopal and Our Lady of Grace Catholic Church here in Noblesville have been on the Indianapolis rotation where they've helped out a lot. And I know a couple of us, several of us really, partnered with St. Michael's when they had the families there one week. A few of us spent the night. Patrick drove people back and forth. We had a lot of you provided food and fellowship, and it was just actually a very beautiful experience. And on the last night that I was there, one of the ladies came in and informed us that she and her children had found out they got their apartment, and she had child care vouchers and transportation vouchers, and she was ready to roll. And it was beautiful to see the transformation from like earlier in the week, where she was still, kind of uppity, but, she seemed to have kind of a natural, I guess uppity is not the right word, a natural joy to her, but even then you could see like this huge transformation. The weight had been lifted, and her kids were just thrilled to death. They were going to have their home again. So this is the program that I've been talking about. And I've talked to you about the host congregations, but there's also the possibility of support congregations. There are a lot of congregations out there that would love to help, but for various reasons, they can't house people overnight. Either there's a strict rule against it in their particular denomination, or maybe they don't have the space, but they have the people that have the will and the desire to volunteer. Those people can be support congregations where they can come in and they can be the ones that can bring food or provide transportation or provide the fellowship, spend the night, or even provide money and things for the different things we need. So this is basically what their program is about. I think I forgot to mention one thing, though. I don't want you to think that this is a new program. Like I said, it's been around for several years. Closer to home, we have 4 networks in Indiana already. We have 2 in Indianapolis, 1 in Greater Lafayette, and 1 in Hendricks County. And now we have one, even though it is not in operation, we have one in Hamilton County. We have 8 churches that have committed, and we need 13. So we are 5 away. We are 5 away. But we have committed churches that are ready, that says, let's get this gone, let's get this done. Nancy Boer and Sherry Sons have been coming to some of the meetings that I've been going to, and they've been hearing some of the great news, and they share a lot of the experiences with this. And Sherry has done a great job of calling countless congregations to try to get some on board. So we've got a lot of feelers out there. So we're getting close. And of course, after that, then we need to start working on funds, and we need to find our day center and our van. There's a lot to it, but God's bigger than any of that, so it'll happen. I'm not too worried about it. We've been working on this for almost 2 years, and I know sometimes it gets a little frustrating, but it's going to happen. We're pretty excited. It's needed, and it'll be just such a joy to be able to help these families, and especially when you think that, these are children, which, hey, how do you define a family in this program? It's at least 1 child under the age of 18 and at least 1 adult over the age of 18. And that's the only definition. It doesn't have to be a parent and a child. It could be a grandparent and a child, an aunt and a child, whatever. We're just whoever the guardian is. So I don't know. Hopefully I didn't confuse you too much. I'm not much of a speaker. But does anybody have any questions or thoughts or suggestions or anything? Who are the 8 congregations? Faith. First Christian, St. Michael's Episcopal, Green Valley Christian, Our Lady of Grace, New Joy Lutheran, Cicero Christian, and Geist Christian. Roots of Life has signed on to be a support congregation. And then New Hope Presbyterian is kind of on the fence on deciding where they want to. They want to be a part of it, they're just not sure which one yet. There's also the possibility, I don't know, has anyone ever heard of Teeter Retreat? Yeah, a few of you have. I think it's owned by the Methodist Church. Someone said that they may be willing to be on the rotation, and they would house them at Teeter Retreat. So that would be a 9th congregation. That would get it even closer. So we've even talked about if it comes down to it and we get to 12 congregations, we may go ahead and roll it out if we have our day center and everything's done. So, yeah. Not that I'm aware of. I know, wouldn't that be lovely for, I don't know or understand the politics of that sort of thing, but it just seems like Hamilton County has kind of been a little shy on, you probably know more about that than me.
So Prevail, who is in the community and works with, no? 1, 2, 3, am I there? Okay. So Prevail has been trying to get a women's shelter. There's a strong need for that. A lot of the local politicians don't want to allot land for that because they believe that jeopardizes their place as a politician and part of it. And the land is difficult to find in Hamilton County. It's also the issue that Hands, who does housing development, Habitat, and Shepherd, a community that works with senior housing, all those are struggling to find land. They're struggling to work with organizations, businesses who lease property like Marsh to want to open that up for civil services. They want to turn a dollar, they want to make money. And so there still is this perception that Hamilton County doesn't have these issues because of the affluence that we do have. These aren't the issues we have, or they want to say we don't want to provide resources for these issues because we don't want to support them. We don't want them to become a bigger issue. And the reality is they're here. They're going to continue to grow exponentially. And if we continue to not provide the resources and just kick this can further down the road, in 10 years, as the population continues to grow, as housing developments come in, as corporations continue to relocate here, we're going to find such an overwhelming need that it's going to inversely begin to affect the county. And so there are organizations trying to get on the front end of this and try to deal with this, but oftentimes when they go to the local businesses and even unfortunately to the churches, they turn a deaf ear and a blind eye because they don't want to look like they're supporting these things. They feel like they're enabling it as opposed to addressing it. And the reality is these organizations actually help to get people out of the system and address the issue. And so there's a lot of re-education and conversation that has to be had. Unfortunately, we're struggling to figure out where to do that and how to do that. So
one of those ways is to come to some of our meetings. We had been meeting on the second Thursday of every month. This month, we're meeting the last Thursday, but and I can announce those from different times. It's kind of interesting to hear some of the perspectives and to hear some of the, sometimes people will come that have heard of Family Promise and that have actually participated or that have been in other programs, you know, and could tell things. Nancy, you had a question or a comment? Yeah, the average stay is 61 days for Greater Indianapolis right now. They have an 87% success rate of providing apartments, homes, transitional homes with employment, because obviously they're not going to put them into a home, help them get into a home if they're not going to be able to sustain that. The 13% that's left usually withdraw on their own and go live with family or something else. But it has a pretty high success rate, which is another reason why I was really drawn to it. And the fact that they're not just housing, we're not warehousing people, we're pulling them together into the community and letting, you know, and not alienating them in any way.
yeah, most shelters separate. So if a family comes in, dad goes to the men's side, mom and the children go to one side. So even if you have a single dad who's coming in with his kids, children are not allowed into the men's side of nearly all homeless shelters. So even if you have a single dad coming in with kids, they get separated from dad and get pushed over onto the women's side without a known parental figure with them and doing that. And so this is trying to change the system, has been changing the system. Family Promise is in San Francisco. I mean, they're nationwide in the system that they've been doing, and over the 30 years that they've been working and organizing, they're seeing this work, and so they have a track record behind them.
Very, very much so. I'm sorry, go ahead. Right now, mostly just prayers that we will get the congregations that we need, or that, and that we'll get the funding we need. Prayers for the day center, that we'll find just the right place. We want the day center to be kind of centrally located for the churches, and as most of the churches that I mentioned are right around Noblesville area so far. Geist and Cicero are the two outliers, although I'm not sure where New Hope is. Anyway, so we need that, we need the transportation. So right now we need prayers, we need people to get the word out. Once the program gets rolling, I'm going to be the coordinator for faith. And then's when I'm going to be calling on you. And then's when I'm going to be looking for the volunteers to come out and say, hey, we need food, we need this, we need that. That's several months down the line, unfortunately. Or maybe not. It could happen a lot quicker. We don't know or anything.
Yeah, so they need financial donations. They
Yeah.
need to be able to secure a facility, and they need to be able to secure a 15-passenger van and a trailer and those resources. And so those gifts can come privately. They can come from corporate businesses. They can come from churches and organizations. And so if you work, if your employers are charitable in that sense, and they want to see that happen, they can make those donations. They can. It's a setup 501c3 non-for-profit, so it's tax deductible, but it goes towards beginning to secure those funds that the location can be built or secured for the center. That the transportation can be purchased, and Noblesville is ideal because we're seeing a lot of the homelessness in the bigger southern cities of Hamilton County. However, it is also happening in the rural northern parts of the county, Sheridan, Atlanta. They are having it there, and homelessness looks different in the rural communities than it does in the southern cities. So Noblesville is ideal for that. I'm not sure where they're talking location, but so money to secure a building, van, transportation resources. The Leadership Board of Faith signed on for their commitment last spring, saying that when those things are secured, we're ready to commit to hosting those families for 4 weeks out of the year. And so prayer, but also have conversations. And if you know of people that want to make financial gifts, they want those financial gifts. So
If you look in your bulletin, there's the website for Family Promise of Hamilton County is on there. And if you wanted to just go out there and look at that, it can tell you, even more, and it tells a lot about the program and stuff. It makes it sound like it's already up and running. We're not, but we're getting there. Once you dig deeper, you'll see that. But anyway, there's that, or you can always call me or email me or text me or whatever if you ever have any questions. Another thing is attend the meetings. We meet, like I said, we're meeting the last Thursday of this month at 7 o'clock at First Christian Church. And we're always looking for, new people, new ideas, new volunteers, whatever. Because that's what finally did get us up and rolling even better is when we finally had a couple that came on that were directors out in Colorado, retired from Colorado and moved here. I don't know why, but now I think maybe I do because we needed them. But anyway, so yeah, come on out to one of our meetings. I'll have that put in the bulletin each month when it's coming up, so. Oh, well, the day center, it needs, we were talking about that in one of our last meetings. We were saying, what would be ideal? It would just be like a 2 or 3 bedroom ranch style house, that size. Because we need one room that would be like a gathering, someplace where they could sit and watch TV and talk and have a good time. We would need one room that would be an office. We would need showers and washer and dryer. And then we would need a couple of rooms that would have like computers and telephones and things that the families could take turns using to go in and do their research on jobs and education and finance, whatever training and things that they would do. And then possibly, just a small kitchenette. So some of the congregations, host congregations, will already have the showers and the washers and dryers, and some of them won't. So that's why it's pretty key that the day center has them, so that the families can take their stuff back and forth each day and be able to take care of it there. So we're not really looking for anything huge. Something kind of small. We need a 15-passenger van, and we need a truck. I'm sorry? Well, we have a board, and we'll have fundraising people that will be responsible for all of that. Right now, we have some feelers out with some of the trustees. We've had a little bit of money given to us from trustees. There's grants. I'm not as familiar with all of that because I planted myself on the host recruitment team. That's what I know the most about. But there's a lot more resources out there than you'd realize. Just listening to some of the people on the fundraising team talk about all these places and all these people they've talked to, there's money out there to be had. And that's another thing is there have been a couple of the churches we've talked to that said, you know what, we're so full right now with all of our volunteer and mission work, but you know what, we could support you financially. We've had a couple of those too. So it's out there. In fact, it's funny, the guy that came and trained us about how to get this thing rolling and everything, he said that's the last thing he ever worries about He says, because it always comes.
Well, thanks, Susie, for
Thank
bringing
you
this
for
up.
listening to me on this. It's something I'm really excited about.
And you'll continue to hear updates. Again, I'd say follow up with Susie if you want to get involved with this on the front end of the conversation. If you want to help extend this conversation out to the community. Noblesville in and of itself has 56 churches. I imagine that Westfield and Carmel and Fishers is probably similar in the number that they have. So there are plenty of faith communities out there that should be able to, one way or another, either financially or with their building and volunteer space. This should easily be able to get off the ground and running. It's just a matter of making sure that the conversation is spread out so that people hear about it, that they know about the need, and then those channels are open for that support to happen. So I'm going to have the band come up. And as they come up, I'm going to invite you guys to stand and join us as we head into this song of response. Scripture speaks of over 2,000. There we go. Over 2,000 times, Scripture speaks and directly addresses the issues of the poor, and that it is the faith community, it is the Israelites, it is the church in the New Testament, it is the people of God who are called to come alongside the poor and to work on their behalf and to minister in the ways of justice and righteousness. And so this is, it's something we do in the way with our partnership with Boys and Girls Club, with Habitat, and some of the other partners we have. And this is a new opportunity for us to make sure that we are joining the poor in their experiences and in their reality so that they may experience the fullness of life, but also come to know God. May you take time to reflect on the ways at which Christ has changed and invited you to change in this world, and in changing, realizing the way that God has blessed you so that you may be a blessing to others. May God be with you. Go in God's peace.